Hello everybody, welcome to Lorelines, Fowl and Hawk speaking. Hope everybody had a good week. We are on Horrors of the Realm. We've got a Halloween episode for you today, part 2. I hope you enjoy it.
There's a spider on your head.
Ah!
Oh god. Not on my head.
Is it your spider? Are you a Beastmaster, Coberon?
No, but I am expecting that to be the next limited class we get.
All tremble and despair, for I have arrived. Silfaria. Thank you. You know, I have to say, I actually really missed the Halloween events, and even though it's coming a month late, I think we're getting one in November?
We are, and I will take it better than not having one at all.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It'll be and Samhain, everyone.
It'll be a nice way to ring in Walker, I think, after we're all recovering from whatever we see in the main story.
Yeah, we are, Silfaria. I'm just reading chat as well. Happy Halloween to you guys. Yeah, exactly. I'm actually really happy about it, even though it's a weird timing because Endwalker's obviously moon themed, and moons are spooky.
I don't know which moon you're looking at.
I think it's okay. I think it'll work out. We have a couple absences today. You know, standard fall health issues mostly.
Yes, falling is not healthy.
So it goes.
So it goes.
The spider got them.
It's so cute, though.
I don't know. Look at that guy. He looks awfully innocent. I don't think that spider could have gotten him.
Reaper's just
It's definitely
twirling.
the Reaper in the corner.
Woo, 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 woo. Well, I won't stall anymore. I'll bring up the slideshow and we can get started. Welcome to the fun.
Yeah.
Fall damage.
Nice. That's a good one.
There's always a problem, isn't there?
Always. What did you do?
Every
You broke it.
time. There we go. There we go.
All right. look at
Wow,
that.
excellent job.
Yep, I'm super professional.
Oh, look, it's inverted. I wonder what that means.
Spooky.
Just like the opening.
Oh well.
All right. So, what are we talking about today? Horrors of the Realm. The spookies of Eorzea.
So who likes being creeped out in Final Fantasy XIV?
I do.
Besides Edda, I mean.
I do.
Oh, we're not diving into the void. Not yet, at least.
We're skirting around the void.
We're going with things more realistic and grounded.
Meanwhile, we have a picture of a void scent right there.
Well, I mean, the Void does feature in most of the little spooky things. The Void scent just be, you know, they do what they do.
Silfaria says, what's a professionalism?
I have no idea. Not us.
So today's frightful menu, we've got Huck Manor, we've got the Lambs of Dalamud, Pharos Sirius, Siren Song C, Drowned City of Scala, and more. And it's cut
I
off.
hope you all are prepared because there's a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
sit down, enjoy.
There really is a
You're
lot.
excited.
I'm
There's
excited.
more than you'd think, actually.
I will agree with that. Not that Final Fantasy doesn't have good horror elements, but there was a little more than I'd really, you sit down and you add it all up and you're like, huh, that's a lot actually.
Yeah, and it does it really well because it does less the jumpy scare and it's more of the dread horror that's like in the background. It's a lot of tension.
A lot of
Which
this
can
stuff
be
they kind of use existing real world lore that they draw from, and a lot of this other stuff they kind of make up using the actual game's in-game lore and just kind of build up from that.
I have to be honest, given how much crazy shit there is in this world, I think the general citizenry should be way more nervous.
I mean, well, we'll get into that.
I mean, we still haven't fixed the void scent problem.
7.0.
Surprise, here's a portal. Alright, the Estate of Nightmares, Huck Manor. Who wants to take it?
Yes, so
I think
Ayumi.
Oberon.
all right.
Because you've got pages
So-
of notes, and all I can say about this is what I made.
I do. So I'll read this and then I'll go into my notes. So, long frowned upon by the people of Gridania as a symbol of excess, the Seed Seers would finally submit to pressure from the citizenry, selling the deed to the manor to a wealthy Elizan by the name of Lady Amandine of House Dardancours. The word Hauk is of ancient Pajali origin and means to speak without words. So it's located in the upper central shroud, comprises mostly voidsent and undead, and is another instance of Asian intervention. And it was used as the event set piece for the All Saints Wake 2018, and I believe 2019 as well. They kept bringing it back.
Yes. I actually used it as the background for this slide. It was really nice.
Fantastic. So I'm going to go into, so who remembers the Huck Manor quest line?
Me.
I do.
Like
I do as well.
Like all 20 quests leading up to it. And I literally went through every single one, and I didn't, like, you don't even realize you're in the quest line until you're about halfway through it, because they're like, oh, there's some murders going on in Fallgourd Float. Go up there, see what's going on. And you talk to this guy, his name is Medrod, and he is just like completely out of sorts. He is just freaked out, and he's been like that for 2 weeks, ever since he was wandering around, heading back to Fallgourd Float, and he saw this eyeball with wings, and he's like, what is that? I'm gonna do what any normal person would see when I see something absolutely terrifying and weird. I'm gonna go closer and take a look. So he sees this eyeball with wings and a guy in a mask, head to toe in black, and we're looking for La Brea, and we see Medrod, and he tells us this description, and like, aha, we got him. All right, tell us where you saw it. We go out there, and it's like Aziz. And so we killed Aziz, we come back, and one of Medron's friends, Aideen, says that, you know, if it wasn't Aziz, she can't imagine anything else that would, you know, kill someone by ripping their face off. My first thought was, oh, it's a leopard. But no. It was not a leopard. It was the Amaran, which they call the floating eye in this. Later on, they actually get actual titles. So Medrod is still out of sorts, and you have to baby him, give him some soup, give him some soothings, rub his back, slap him a few times. Yeah, exactly. And so he says, well, he crept closer and he saw the corpse of a woman, and he thought that the guy in the mask was a minion of Thal, and he had come to claim the woman's soul. And you're like, okay, this guy's an idiot, because that was clearly an Asian, and that was probably some kind of creature that it summoned from hell to kill people for whatever reason. And then we find out there's more victims, and people have been disappearing, and they're all women, and all of them have had their faces ripped off. And so then you talk to Aideen some more, and you're like, oh yeah, after they die, there's something like their rancor goes into this stone that is over in the southern part of Fallgourd Float. And she's like, here's a stick of dynamite, go blow it up, see what the stone is made of. You go over there, blow it up, and it's literally just a lightning crystal, a giant lightning crystal that's just covered in crap. And so like, no, that's not it. And so that's why it flashes and made noise. It literally had nothing to do with anything. And there's another guy listening in on this conversation the whole time. This is like maybe 5 or 6 quests that you're doing this. And his name is Iverold. And he's like, yeah, I saw that wing thing that stupid Medrod guy saw. It's totally real. But I saw it at the exact same time, and it was in a completely different spot. So he said he actually locked eyes with the thing, and he just was overcome with fear, ran away screaming. Why it didn't eat him? Probably because he wasn't a woman, but who knows? So he's like, yeah, I saw it in this other spot. Yeah, it looks evil. It's the Garleans. Garleans did it. So he sends you out, and there's this giant bane mite you find, and you kill it, and you come back. You tell Aideen about it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's the bane mite that's been, you know, giving everybody in Fallgourd Float a hard time. Great job." So at least something good came of it. And then you talk to Iverold, and he's like, "Yeah, no, it wasn't a bane mite, but I could swear it wasn't a Banemite, but maybe it was a trick of the light. So you're out of leads at this point, and Iverall decides that he reconsidered that it was a trick of the light. And he's like, I think I did see wings, and I don't think Banemites have wings. It's just a broken husk and nothing more. And so once he settles on the fact that I did see something weird and crazy, and it wasn't at the same spot, Aiden's like, oh, of course, there's more than one. There's a horde of these things. So we're gonna dip out. Peace. Warrior Light. Last time we saw it was over here. Good luck. Bye. And so they send you on your merry way, and you go out there and you find a woman, and she is dead, very dead. And after you look at her body, her face is gone, and then one of those winged eyes pop out.
Did you say her face is gone?
Yeah, her face is gone. It's been ripped off. Like that's literally everyone who's died, their face has been ripped off. And it's just like, why are they ripping faces off?
You just can't face the truth.
They're filming a movie.
So Warrior Light, kills the floating eye and goes to talk to the serpents, where, once they learn that there are void sent in North Shroud, they of course flee in terror, as serpents do. But one guy, no, I'm kidding. But they do recount that there have been a lot of other killings that match this in the Central Shroud, but there was no masked individual, so they hadn't tied it together. But for some reason, all their faces are missing too. So why they hadn't put two and two together, I don't know, but I attribute that to them being the servants. Oh my God. But in the Central Shroud, the creatures are also moving the bodies, but they don't know why. But they do know that they're all female and they're all young. And the corpse that you find in the North Shroud actually has a little sigil with a lily on it. And the serpents, again, proving their ineptitude. Yeah, it's a button, but it's got a sigil on it.
Fancy.
Yeah, it's super fancy, and serpents are like, I don't know, I've never seen this before in my life. It doesn't look like any of the great houses of Gridania that we should know about. And so they're like, yeah, go ask Miu, and she knows everything. So we go back to Gridania, and she's like, oh, I don't know what this is. Go ask around town. And at this point, I'm just like, nobody in Gridania knows anything. And so you ask
really
around a lot,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Guys,
kind of.
They have noble houses too.
Yeah, they do.
It's a freaking French name coming up.
Yeah,
and it's that one area of town that'd be like, you're not cool enough to go in. It's fun to go there after
That's right.
Yeah.
After Shadowbringers and be like, I've saved 2 worlds. Are you sure I can't go in there? Okay,
yeah, let me in the housing district, jerk.
No.
They're never gonna let us in there.
Yeah, so like after asking like 25 people in Gridania around the Aetherite, you finally make your way to the Lancers Guild, and there's a Lancer there named Sainguled, and she's like, yeah, I don't know anything about this, but there's this really fancily dressed guy who's been really sad for a while. His name is Ursendil. Go talk to him. He might know what it is. And he immediately knows what it is. He's like maybe 15 yalms away. And he identifies the sigil on the button as the mark of family Dartencourts. And he's like, was the face of the woman you found mangled at all? And it's like, really? Okay. And so he receives confirmation, and he's like, all right, I've kept this secret for years now. I can't live with this anymore. And he says, I will tell you, what's going on, but you have to put an end to my lady's madness and free her from her torment. So I have his entire quest dialogue here, which I'm going to recite. So without further ado.
It's murder time.
I was once a manservant in the employ of one of the oldest and proudest families in Gridania, which nobody knows about or remembers. I don't know.
You had to interject there.
I did. That's kind of bendy lore breaking to me there, that nobody knew what this family was or what their sigil was, despite that they were one of the oldest and proudest families in Gridania, the Dartencours. Anyway, during that time, I had the honor of waiting upon Lady Amandine, mistress of the household. Fair as summer was she, and possessed of a heart befitting her radiance. So she was really nice. She treated her people really well. She was really pretty, but she was also very vain. So, alas, the calamity wrought a great change in her, and though she escaped with her life, death may have well been a kinder fate. He said he could never forget the day that her bandages were removed. She saw herself, and she had gotten a nose job. And like her nose had been broken and it was like slightly out of place. And then she said, "I'm hideous. I can't go out in public anymore." I'm kidding. She was horribly disfigured by the calamity. The Black Shroud was hit pretty hard, and living in Huck Manor, that area got hit extremely hard by Bahamut. So when she saw herself for the first time, it was kind of like that Twilight Zone episode. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it, where, you know, this woman's got bandages on their face the whole time, and she gets the bandages off at the end of the episode, and she looks absolutely beautiful, but everyone else is ugly, and they're like, "No, you're still ugly." And so she's like, "I can't go out in public. I can't see anything. I'm going to lock myself away in my room and never see anybody." And at that moment, he said that the kindly woman he knew ceased to exist. She was gone. So Ursendel was trapped in Huck Manor along with the rest of the staff with a crazy person. Unable to bear the thought of being seen, the lady sequestered herself within her chambers and refused all company. This continued for many uneasy moons until one day, without warning, she began receiving queer guests. None among us knew whence they came, these masked men, but my lady believed that they would help her regain that which she had lost. And so began the rites of rejuvenation. The ritual seemed innocent enough in the beginning, but grew ever more grotesque as time went by. Eventually, there came a day when my lady bound...
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Torture is funny.
Oh my gosh.
All right. But grew ever more grotesque as time went by. I can't stop laughing.
So the reason Huck Manor was hit so hard by the calamity is that it actually shares the same topography and geography as the North Shroud, which is actually where the coils are.
Yes. So it did get hit really hard. The rituals were innocent in the beginning, but as time went by, they grew more and more grotesque. And if you have any question about who was coming to do these rituals, it was the Asians, but not any Asians that matter. It was it was the Asians of the 12th staff that were
the Black
doing
Masked
this.
ones.
Yeah, the Black Mask. And there
Black
eventually
Mask,
came a
yeah.
day when Lady Amandine, during one of these rituals, called one of her housemaidens into the room, bound her to the bed, and ripped her face off. And so at this point, Ursendel was like, "All right,
I quit.
this was crazy." Yeah, no, not I quit. He had been working there for like 50 years at this point. So he was like in, you know, for penny for a pound for this. But then he was, you know, the closest person, I suppose. And so Lady Amandine was, "You get ready to the body, go." And so he disposed of the body. He said, "I performed the dreadful task as bade, obedient servant that I was, but the time came to return to the house. My legs refused to move. I knew then that I could not go back to the place after the nightmare that I had witnessed." So basically, he got out, decided that he was going to stay out while he was out and not go back. And then he wound up in Gridania, being very sad. And then we went in there. We killed Lady Amandine Dartencours. We saw the two lesser Asians of the 12 staff. They spout cryptic nonsense, cackle, and leave. And then, in the 50s, the Serpents decide to launch another, I would say, expedition, but it's more of a cleansing of the house. It does not go well. And that is when you go in there and you defeat Halicarnassus. So Halicarnassus is very interesting because she is the Voidsent who was responsible for all of the changes inside Huck Manor. She was the one that was summoned. And Halicarnassus is not actually her name. That was actually a name taken from old Eorzean legends. So Lady Amandine actually gave her that name because Voidsent don't give their real names usually because it gives others power over them. So Halicarnassus was not actually her real name. But after we killed Halicarnassus, we turned it into a haunted house where Voidsent consistently try and breach the source, but they really suck at it.
Not to be confused with the Halicarnassus from Omega, from the Omega storyline.
So yes, so that is the actual one from the legends, but she was just named after that one, but it's not actually her.
It's my favorite haunted house.
Yes. So yeah, that is basically Huck Manor. It's really interesting, and there's a lot to it. It's surprisingly well built out, and just the build of dread and how it starts from one murder and then it goes to several, and then it goes to there's multiple murders across multiple zones, and they're all being killed in the same way, and somehow the Serpents have no idea that these are all connected, despite the fact that they're all being killed in the exact same way.
And they never had the thought process of going to Huck Manor to check things out.
So
this
they
giant manor.
So they did. Actually, they did send a task force to Huck Manor. None of them came back.
You actually
this isn't a
fight
problem.
some of them in the basement as skeletons.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Actually, another cool thing, if the quest itself very spooky, but the zone when you go into either version of Huck Manor is also very kind of eerie, and like little blood stains here and that kind of thing. It's neat.
It's your classic haunted house. Even the garden with its cages and floating eyeballs everywhere.
And the very
really creepy. The bushes and stuff. The what do you call
creepy
that?
enough having all those moorballs in your front yard.
Yes.
You need a garden.
Yeah. Ayumi.
Moorballs,
gargoyle statues.
Ayumi, did you write some of this?
I did.
Signing away her very soul in a final effort to literally save face.
You should read it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, all right. While little is known of the lady, it was said that she was exceptionally vain, and that to maintain her impeccable beauty, she would spare no expense. From facial creams concocted to rare Cursin honeys to shampoos derived from the milk of exotic furbles, her daily ritual of beauty treatments escalated until it was rumored that she was bathing in the blood of her virgin maidservants. No amount of man-made tinctures, however, could hide the hideous scars she eventually suffered during the calamity, and soon she was forced to turn to a darker solution, namely the Ascians, signing away her very soul into a final effort to literally save face. Her new beauty treatments involved a series of horrific murders in the Black Shroud that left her victims facially disfigured. A trail soon pointed to a former manservant who confessed the truth of what Amandine was doing and his role in her crimes. He begs the player to put an end to her insanity. Later, although Lady Amandine was slain, the Voidsent still inhabited her manor. After the disappearance of one squad of wood whalers, adventurers came as reinforcements. The vampiric Voidsent Halicarnassus makes an appearance in the basement of the manor on hard mode and uses Lady Amandine as a puppet. It is actually quite the fight.
It's really fun. I really enjoyed it. One other thing about Huck Manor that I think is really interesting is that all of the staff that didn't get out. So Ursendel got really lucky that he stayed out, because all of the staff that stayed, they are the ones that you fight. So the manor maid servants, the the manor steward in the basement. They were all the staff of the house, and they were turned into void sent and undead. So Ursendil is the only one that got out. It's like a nightmarish version of Beauty and the Beast, where they're all still in there.
Oh boy.
Nightmarish version. Okay, so what's on the next agenda?
Those who worship the blood moon.
Yes.
The Lambs of Dalamud are a cult that sprang up when Dalamud first began showing signs of its descent. They believed that the scent of fresh blood will attract Menfina's loyal hound and bring it down upon the land to purify it. For this reason, they have sent followers to the city-states of Eorzea to lure adventurers to their dooms under the pretense of having them save kidnapped family members. Though some of its members are known to use swords, the Lambs are predominantly thaumaturges who use the blood of their sacrifices to generate their spells. The Lambs of Dalamud do not fear death, believing that Dalamud will recognize their sacrifice and descend into the gates of the seventh hell to resurrect them as servants in the seventh umbral era. Their last known ritual was practiced in XIV, coincidentally where the symbol of Menfina appeared before the Warrior of Light slew them. They accepted their deaths readily upon realizing that they gave their own blood in service to Dalamud. So this is our wonderful cult of end of the world guys.
Wait, how am I the jump scare?
Fun doomsday cult, which I've since we'll talk about it later. They're mentioned again. I have a suspicion Fandaniel would look at them and be like, useful. Interestingly, these guys wear
they were not
a
tempered.
robe and hood. They wear a robe and mask combo, which makes me think of the ancients, but something has obviously gotten a little twisted here. Yes, as Data asks if they were tempered. They were not.
They were just crazy.
I mean, They thought the moon would fall. They weren't entirely wrong. But yes, they were a little misled, shall we say, on the nature of Dalamud and what it portended. And they were really upset when it didn't go right, as we learned.
Man, it's a space station with a dragon inside it?
That's no moon.
Who would have guessed that?
So I do want to talk about the because it's not up here. I do want to talk about Northern Thanalan and the Lambs of Dalamud. Who has ever done the Dark Devices Fate questline? Or not questline, but Fate line.
I forgot they were out there too.
I did it many a time back in A Realm Reborn when people use Northern Thanalan to level up a lot.
Yeah, Fate
we did
grinding.
that thing all the time in the Fate train.
Yep, that's how I did it.
It's a 3-part Fate.
In the northeast.
Most recently did it leveling Blue Mage, but yes.
Yeah, so that is a perfect example of how the Lambs of Dalamud get their sacrifices, and confirmation that they are also working with Void Scent.
Basically, it starts off with you're kind of just killing ads as the whole fate just kind of starts out, and then you find their leader, whom you have to kind of beat down twice, and then they transform into a Void Scent.
Well, kind of. So when you go in there, it's this old guy. I forgot his name. It begins with a J, but he's like, "Please save my daughter. The Lambs have kidnapped her. They're going to sacrifice
it's a
her."
Trick.
Yeah. And you go in there and you beat up all the lambs, and you're like, "Great!" And then she's like, "Ha ha ha!"
Gotcha.
And then more lambs come, and her and her guy are the bosses. And then when you beat them, she transforms into a Void Scent.
It actually requires quite the group to take down too. It's not exactly something you can take down yourself.
Yeah, don't try and solo it. Yes, twin-tongued Addison. Thank you.
There were a lot of good fates in ARR.
I like the fate chains.
Many, they're obviously seen wearing dark red robes. They're very, very noticeable, very, very distinguishable. Many are seen around the Shroud in dungeons like Amdapor Keep and Tamtara Deepcroft. But more can be found also in Northern Thanalan and various other places too.
Sorry, real quick on the robes. Their masks that come with the robes are yellow, but otherwise they're very similar in shape to the ancient shades we see in Amarant.
Yes.
Which, much like in Shadowbringers, where we see a lot of parallels to culture seeping down throughout the eons, this is another instance of that happening. The same with the Woodweller masks.
Hmm. It's like the dark side of the Wood Whalers.
The mildly competent side.
So then we have the dalamud, Zala tribe from the Azim steppe, who are also known to worship dalamud. And then, despite the calamity coming to pass, the lambs did not disband.
Locked in a cult, gotta move forward.
Which brings us to our next slide, which is straight from the Encyclopedia Eorzea. Despite numbering in what religious scholars estimate to be the thousands, the Lambs of Dalamud all but disappeared from the public eye immediately following the fall of the Lesser Moon. Scattered reports from across Eorzea suggest there may still be factions that continue with the blood rites. However, their numbers are insignificant. So where did they all go? It is quite possible that the beliefs of those cultists who survived the calamity were dismantled by the revelation Dalamud was not but an iron prison for the etherical manifestation of a long-dead worm. Having lost faith, they simply abandoned the cult and returned to their old lives. Word from the Far East, though, may suggest otherwise. Adventurers and traders have brought back with them tales of intrigue. A swelling of the ranks of those scattered tribes who pledged spiritual allegiance to the Dusk Mother Nama, and the abductions that have followed. Is this merely coincidence, or could this prove to be the beginnings of something sinister?
I'm really hoping we get follow-up on the abductions. I'm intrigued by it.
So this could possibly mean that they have moved east.
So they got the Datharl?
They got
Dalamud,
Sadu.
I assume. Oh, wait, no, you were talking about something else, sorry.
The Datharl worship the Dusk Mother.
Yep.
That was the reference.
Which means they could also be influencing other tribes too. But we still don't know if it's them or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna say we certainly have other instances of kidnapping, people and beast men alike being dragged off to the fancy towers. So it could be relevant. It could just be a by-mention that won't come to pass.
They're a cult that is very easily influenced too. Like, I mean, let's be real. They see a blood red moon and they immediately worship it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I should also point out that we're having more moon shenanigans approach, what with the whole like focus on the moon looking all orange at the end of 5.55. They may be like, "Oh, our bad, wrong moon. We actually
wrong moon, JK."
I mean, that's what I think the Kane Senna story, Tale from the Dawn, is doing a wrong moon moment.
Oh, wait till they discover the house of the crooked coin.
Oh boy.
My goodness.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, the lambs, they all but have disbanded, but they could be back. We don't know just yet.
They left the door open for us.
What's next?
It looks like Siren and Pharaoh Sirius.
The Dread Lighthouse, Pharaoh Sirius. This is one of my favorite dungeons, actually.
Same.
I remember when the lead into the dungeon was the only part that had the vocals.
Man, same.
And I was so happy when they made that the theme to the whole dungeon.
Yeah, it made it hype. That was probably 2 patch cycles later, I think. They started doing that to all the dungeons when they realized that the 30-second intro track was not enough. When they were doing such a good job.
Way.
The orchestral, prowess of the team, like, just extend it, please.
It was a good change in direction.
This was the first instance of body horror that we have found in the game.
Oh yeah, the sailors.
The corruption of because
Corruption of
the
crystal.
large orange crystal here is I forget which aspect it is. You can't tell because it's corrupted crystal and they all look orange.
It's fire aspected.
Fire, okay. But yeah, it has corrupted people as well.
Yep, and I'll let someone else go ahead and take this one.
I can do this one if you want.
Go for it.
The once proud Pharos Sirius is twice dishonored, once by the Calamity and now by the deadly Siren of Umbra, who plots to hold the lighthouse as a personal stronghold with the aid of her minions. Silence her lunatic song, dispatch the usual suspects, Ashkin and winged monstrosities, and reclaim the light of the civilized world. From the in-game description. A lighthouse pivotal to the navigation surrounding Lenosha, the city-state Limsa has paid highly to the towering structure in both creation and maintenance, and what a creation to behold, as the lighthouse can be classified as a Lenoshan grand castle of splendid design, with its graceful architecture and white marble halls. However, during the 7th Umbral era, the lighthouse was struck with a gigantic corrupted crystal shard from the fallen moon Dalamud, which subsequently rendered the lighthouse unusable and broken. The yellow-orange crystals now scattered all over the lighthouse have been known to corrupt any entity that is near it for extended periods of time. I think there's a certain humorous irony in that the lighthouse cannot be lit properly, but the crystals glow from a very long distance, so it sort of still works.
Yeah, it still functions.
It's still functional.
Not as intended, but it does. I wonder in the fog how well it would work.
I mean,
You
when
see
it's
it just
foggy
in
out,
time to die.
when it's foggy out, you can still kind of see the glow.
True.
Yeah, I loved how just the use of undead in the lighthouse beach was really, really cool.
So I really, really enjoyed that quest where the first time you see Siren and the undead are everywhere, and you have to dodge the little notes coming in from the water.
It's a solo duty. I love it. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was fun. And in the little what do you call it? The little lore of having to put in the earplugs to protect yourself from your song. Finding out that the little Lalafell Lecher dude always carries him because of the trauma he experienced.
I can't remember. Was this dungeon MSQ or side?
It's a side
MSQ.
dungeon.
It was.
Oh, well,
Oh,
the
was it?
dungeon is MSQ. The
Yeah,
duty is... Or, sorry.
Yeah.
Backwards. The dungeon is one of the first endgame dungeons for ARR. But the duty with Siren on the Isle of Umbra was MSQ.
Interesting. So the dungeon itself wasn't mandatory.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
kind of passed by it in, like, we talked with, like, I think one NPC outside of it who was just kind of standing outside and just said, you know, up the way, there's a siren that's causing
I'll be right
trouble or
back.
whatever. And then that was it. But if you actually wanted to do the actual instance, there was an NPC in Aleport that you had to talk to.
I remember doing it as soon as I was able, so I just couldn't. It's been so long since ARR. I've never made a second character that really went through everything. Siren of the Sea. It is said that all men who enter the Isle of Umbra can hear the alluring voice of the siren, yet the shipwrecks nearby indicate that this is not a good song. Due to many lost or wrecked ships and the eeriness of the isle, the lighthouse was abandoned and or avoided by both pirates and the Limsaluminsan officials. However, it hasn't been forgotten. Several maintenance workers were sent to the lighthouse in an attempt to restore the lighthouse to its former glory, but none of them ever returned. It is for this reason that the Warrior of Light and their friends are requested by workers of Limsaluminsa to clear the dangerous marvel of Lenosha of its corrupted inhabitants, as well as the siren herself, so that the seas of Western Vilbrand may be safe to traverse once again. A mysterious feminine monstrosity that is known to capture and lure men to their demise, the siren has taken a liking to the tower after its transformation, most likely due to the corrupt orange-yellow crystals that now fill the upper level's walls. She resides on the top floor of the tower, where the views of Lenosha can be seen. Carrying a harp, she sings songs of doom that reaches the males near the seas of Lenosha, trapping them into her grasp and forcing them to permanently reside within the tower. Whereas the corrupting crystals slowly transform them from the inside out the longer they stay within the confines. Though her true intentions are not known, it is believed that the siren is either lonely or is simply using the corrupted crystals and corrupted pirates as a source of energy.
So yeah, this is a thing about this kind of is a first, like I said, the first real instance of body horror, and it kind of mirrors that of the real life example of radiation, what radiation can do to a body.
Indeed. It's also interesting lore-wise because it's an sorry, words. It kind of hints at the the twisting that over aspecting due to tempering can cause. This is the same thing, except it's not tempering, it's just crystal corruption. Same principle though. It sort of shows us that there is an underlying principle that the game has going on with this magic stuff.
And if actually you look at the siren beyond the text here, she actually shares kind of like the same lower half, the lower body, as almost Shiva does. Shiva, aka Reen Shiva, or also regular Shiva. It's just the way that her legs are kind of, the designs on her legs are kind of made. But yeah, we still don't know if she was she was a dungeon boss, but we still don't know if she was a primal or not. There's arguments on whether or not she is or isn't, because in the previous games, in the previous entries in Final Fantasy, she was a summon, actually.
And nevertheless, we have the Stormblood Siren in Siren Song C named Lorelei. And they appear throughout various other quests. Wasn't actually a siren, yeah.
The Sea of Shipwrecks and Siren Songs. So, how many people liked the Siren Song C in Stormblood?
I did.
Dungeon.
It was a very exciting dungeon.
It took way too long to get to it.
It was a real, like, out of left field experience. Like, all of a sudden, oh, we're in Spooky Time Town, over here on this weird island on our way with Carvalane Company to the Far East. It just felt like a very interesting detour before we actually made it to Kugane.
As a fan of Final Fantasy V, I really liked it. I'll go ahead and start. With the aid of Captain Carvalane and his misery, you and your companions have embarked on a lengthy voyage to the Far East. Alas, no voyage across the 5 seas is entirely uneventful. The ship has been dragged off course by a mysterious force, and the men have begun to whisper of strange things in the water. Needless to say, you and your fellow adventurers will be having none of that. Once the ship reaches the unknown destination, you will go ashore and deal with whatever fiends you find, from the in-game description. So, in case you didn't already know, this area was actually inspired by Final Fantasy V's ship graveyard. Despite being called the Siren Song C, no sirens are actually present in the dungeon, despite being kind of hinted at by the sailors whom you fight with. Also, this is the only dungeon to not have a defined region, with the introduction cinematic merely listing it as question mark, question mark, question mark. Though its musical theme is based on westerly winds, the theme of the region in Lenosia. In the Encyclopedia Eorzea second volume, it is listed as Devnarian geography, and the prison complex is said to have been constructed by the Rodzahan government.
I find it interesting, actually, because my assumption, at least playing through, was that these ships were all wrecked together because some siren creature had drawn them all together. It sounded like that was the Lorelei thing we fought, but I don't know if that was strictly a siren or like some twisted perversion.
There's a lighthouse at the very top that kind of flashes, and as we go into this little ship graveyard, ships actually appear and disappear as we kind of go throughout the dungeon. And the same with actually the enemies. They kind of appear out of nowhere, like Void said.
It's really cool.
I can add something to
I
this
found
as
that
well.
an enjoyable one. Sorry, what was that?
I was going to say I can add something to this as well. While Lorelei is not strictly speaking, like, I don't know, like monster race speaking a siren, the reference is a name from a German legend whose singing on the reefs on the Rhine would lure sailors to their doom. So it's mythologically a siren, regardless.
Nice. I hadn't caught that. That's really good.
So what I like here is that they have, and I didn't know about this till I started making the slides the other evening. that this is our first example and mention of Radz-at-Han and Thavnarian influence besides the relic quests. Because previously we had known them just from just like the dancer outfits and the relic quests. Now we have actual Thavnarian geography, and their government actually constructed these prisons. So now we have actual influences here in Stormblood that we'll probably now see in Endwalker.
Would be interested to see at least some side dialogue in Radz-at-Han about kind of at least explaining why this thing is there.
And it makes sense though too, because the Siren Song C is south of Thavnar.
Mm-hmm.
But in Final Fantasy V, what was that girl's name? I couldn't remember. Started with an F. You meet her in the ship graveyard.
Was this the pirate lady or someone else?
Yes.
I know you're talking about purple hair.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't remember her name, but I know you're talking
Are
about.
you talking about the main character, Faris?
There
Faris,
we go.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, Faris. That is actually where you're supposed to meet Faris.
Faris serious? What?
Yes, we are serious.
Now, I can only imagine if they had made a Faris reference in the Siren Song C. I'm sure people would have lost their minds.
I would have been happy, very happy. It's still the most underrated title, in my opinion.
It's the one that actually, well, people will argue that 5 and 3 introduced job systems first, but I would argue that 5 did cross-class skills the best.
Whenever I had people telling me, oh, well, 10-2 is lame, it's just dress up princess, I'm like, go back and play 5. Tell me that again. It ain't new.
No. So yeah, Siren Song C. It's just to the south of Thavnar and constructed by the Radz-at-Han government.
Moving on, we have the drowned city of Scala. Long ago, in the dawn of the 5th Astral Era, the modest nation of Scala was founded in the land of Girabania. Over the span of several centuries, its people constructed a grand city of stone at the bottom of a steep-walled ravine. But even this natural defense could not protect Scala from destruction during a terrible age of war. When the great flood of the 6th Umbral Calamity later swept across the realm, the hollow ruins of the city were lost to sight, its remnants submerged beneath a raging sea. Over 1,000 years later, Alamigo would be built over the forgotten city, but the last king of Alamigo, Theodoric, grew paranoid towards the end of his reign. He had his own family members imprisoned on invented charges and transformed by the court thaumaturges to guard the riches hidden below. But because he didn't trust his own countrymen, he enlisted the help of foreign thaumaturges. The final boss is the Mad King's cousin, who had a strong sense of justice and was known for trying to counsel the king against his decisions. For this he was punished for treason.
Another body horror type of dungeon being transformed.
The whole dungeon
against your
itself
will.
is pretty spooky.
Yeah. It's neat. It's like all this treasure, and it's enough treasure that you're like, oh god, what's lurking here?
I love it.
Oh, nice.
I love the
Dad
glyphs.
just did this one today. Very nice.
Oh yeah, it's a brilliant dungeon. I love that the glyphs on the ground will transform you into the ghost monster that lets you traverse the ravine.
It's really neat.
It's only temporary though.
Tragically.
If I recall, there's something else about the locks too that escapes me. And it kind of works in with the story.
Well, and the whole city being drowned is also kind of eerie in its own way, with changes due to I think it was the 6th calamity, correct? Brain
Yeah.
already, yeah.
6th was
just
water.
Putting it underwater, you have to guess that there were probably a lot of people in the city at the time.
Absolutely. It's really interesting terrain. Obviously, over thousands of years, geography can change, but I still find it very interesting that it's a super deep salt lake, just mineral-rich walls. And, you fill the puddle, and suddenly you have a completely drowned city. So, I don't know. I really like this whole region, and I don't think I can think of another instance in the game, really, aside from, say, Palace of the Dead, that's so deep, and yet people would have lived there. It's just a very vertical city, right? A lot like Ritterana Lighthouse, I guess.
Indeed.
I've always wondered what, if any, connection Scala had to later Alamigo. Like, if it had any cultural influence on it or not, or if it was too separated by time.
Now you've got me wondering, just from bringing that up, you got me wondering if it had a patron deity that of the 12.
Yeah,
like
like
how
all
Nim
the
was
other.
the wanderers and all that.
Right, yeah. Like, if because it was contemporaneous with them to some extent. Maybe it was Ralger again, or maybe it was something else.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I was actually listening in. Yes, I really enjoy the dungeon. I know you were talking about the part where you transform into the ghost. It doesn't have a lot to do with the game itself, but it always reminded me of Slimer from Ghostbusters.
Yes, that was what I thought of too.
Yeah, that and the second boss turning you into an idol, and then you have to like blow things up.
One
yeah,
thing...
yeah, you got it.
Yep. So one of the interesting things about the second boss, I believe, the
Yeah.
idol, if you have a Mikote in your party who has a food buff on, the fat cat is actually revealed to be inside of it and controlling it.
It's a rare occurrence.
I remember that.
Unless you happen to have that set.
Yes,
It's just
I
a cute
remember
little,
that.
a cute little Easter egg for you. I love it.
I had such a double take the first time I saw it. I was like, wait, what? There's actually a fat cat in there?
I'm an Ellison, so I've never gotten to see it.
Yeah, someone in the Japanese community actually made a video of it, and it's a really good machinima where like they do drown City of Scala, their Amico, they see it, they get close-up pictures of it, and it's like them sleeping in their bed, and then they summon the fat cat while like they're sleeping, and it's just like zooms in, it's like dun dun dun, and then it just cuts to black.
New type says, why?
Because you don't want it. So yeah, no, I enjoyed Scala for the most part, but I didn't run it all that much. I was taking a break from the game when it dropped.
It's got some people's most favorite glamour.
Yeah, the Scalic set is a very good set.
Diable.
Diable and fairly unique. I like a lot of the pieces.
Now for everyone's favorite quest line.
I suppose we'll move forward. Who wants to take it?
Neela, you take it.
All right, Gentleman Most Undead. After his unsuccessful bid to stop Dalamud's fall, the notorious Inspector Hildebrand Manderville was interred in Drybone's Lichyard, as were many lost in the calamity. However, the good inspector was not, strictly speaking, dead, and when he awoke, he burst forth from his grave in a most zombie-like manner. Indeed, the other dead that inhabit the area welcomed him to their number. In turn, Hildebrand, having lost his memories, but not his nature, instructed them in the ways of the gentleman. Whether because of this, or merely by force of his personality, he soon became known as their leader. And thus were born the gentle dead men, zombies most unusual, who might easily be recognized by their noble carriage despite their rotting forms, and by their gentlemanly speech and poses. The poses. Their notoriety grew such that Nashu Makaraka, which I'm probably mispronouncing, sorry, the lost inspector's assistant, came to hear of them. In her attempts to fill Hildebrand's shoes, she had taken on the role of inspector, and when the Warrior of Light approached her to offer assistance, they together, well, but mostly the Warrior of Light, sought to find these zombies' leaders. To Nashu's surprise and joy, it was none other than Hildebrand, and after an explosive reunion, he soon came to his senses. Basically, we see a few flashbacks to, well, we hear Nashu's story of him trying to basically 1v1 dalamud, and then see a few flashbacks to him climbing out of a grave and being welcomed by other zombie types. it's a great quest.
So,
so
Yeah.
silly.
there's actually another quest that ties into this. Has anyone ever done the quest where they explain where the gentle dead men came from?
It's been a long time. It sounds familiar, but I can't place it.
Yeah,
So
it's ringing a
it's-
bell, but
Yeah, it's completely out of place as far as this is concerned, and it's completely unconnected. So if you finish all of the ARR Beast tribes, the final Alliance Beast tribe quest explains where the Gentle Dead Men came from, and it's just north of Drybone. Two asshole Lalafels have a little like undead engine going, and they're digging up people from the Lich Yard and bringing them back to life, and that's where the Gentle Dead Men came from.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
I
so
mean, if
nutty.
I had what else are you gonna do with an undead reanimator device? Like, what else are you supposed to do?
See
with
if it works, okay?
Yeah. They they wanted to take over Ul'dah. Of course they did. But then the Gentle Dead Men were like, nah, we're going to go pose
We
and
want
be
crumpets.
gentlemen. Yeah.
I was catching up on the chat here. Roxas had asked, but isn't Hildebrand non-canon or one big joke? He's canon. Oh God,
I mean,
that's somehow worse.
I mean, he's the son of a
Truth.
syndicate member.
Hildebrand is a
who's also
true
canon.
hero.
He's an inspector of light. He is definitely canon.
Yeah, the very fact that in the Christmas quest line, oh God, I don't remember what year it was, but the first one where Godbert was Saint Nimia, he talks about his son who had gone missing, and yeah, so that kind of cemented it as canon.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's certainly an
I-
interesting quest. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go. No, you were first.
Oh, I was just saying it's certainly an interesting quest line, and not everyone is going to be able to enjoy it, but at the very least, we can enjoy the cute little the little fights in it and the emotes and such that you get from it, which are the best part.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kolrath brings up something. It's them exaggerating the engine limits, then that makes it good in my book. Actually, their directive for Hildebrand was to try and break the engine, to test the limits of the engine as far as it could go, and that's kind of why it's so exaggerated.
It helped the animating team learn what they could do with faces as well, like just all the off the wall stuff they could do with the character models.
This actually reminds me of the incredible and very noticeable animation updates we saw in the final patches of Shadowbringers. Like the pouring water, these kinds of things.
Yeah, and the bread.
Just like, what, huh? So, yeah, team's learning.
Yes, I would love to see Hildebrand come back in Endwalker, but who knows when he'll show up again from wherever he's deposited.
I mean,
himself.
we saw him in Heroes Gauntlet.
Yeah,
I
he looked very
remember
out of sorts.
when I first did that quest. It was how I wasn't a white mage because that was 1.0. I barely got to play 1.0. 2.0, I was a bard, and I was just out in the sands there, and I just discovered this mound of, because you know where they are. They're like in the southeast end of the desert,
Yep.
and then there's just this mound of zombies who are just doing poses, and I'm like, what?
No brains?
And you get the quest line for there, and you go back, and it's like, is this quest really supposed to be here? Are these things broken?
Yes. And yes.
Indeed.
Turns out something was broken. And it probably wasn't the game.
Yeah, I agree with Neela. I missed it as well in Shadowbringers. I never would complete the Hildebrand quests immediately, but it's always
No,
something
I wait
nice.
till I can do them all at once.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's one of those things, like, I'm not brokenhearted we
Yeah.
didn't get it. All things considered, I'm glad we got other pieces of content instead, but I had been looking forward to, we got sucked into a portal. Where's this going to go? The real broken things were the friends we made along the way. Truth.
Yes, Greg.
I'm half expecting him now to be on the moon instead.
Yeah, that'd be fun. It'd be very fun.
We'll come across him one day on the moon, and his legs will be sticking out of the ground.
How'd you get up here?
How did I get up here? How did you get up here?
Just waiting till Dad threw him up there.
Yeah, and then
I
I'll
was gonna
just
say-
wait at my spaceship.
Yeah, Brand would be like, "This isn't the first time I've gone off to punch a moon."
Plot twist: the hole in the moon was caused by Godbert.
Oh my god.
Oh boy. All right, let me pop forward. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Ah!
Meal, it does a body good.
Oh, the picture
That's
of
right.
someone
The
actually
booty
holding
mommy bread.
Neil.
During the later portions of the main scenario, the party learns from Reen that meal is created from sin-eaters that were once Yulmore citizens, because of the nature of sin-eaters siring new members from some of their victims. A Yulmore resident would gradually transform after consuming enough meal. Meal scraps were also distributed to the Gate Town residents surrounding Yulmore, making them susceptible to Vothri's Light Warden abilities, as he used them and the unchanged Yulmore residents as his first wave of defense. Unironically, the horrific food stuff has been recreated by A Recipe Reborn. Feel free to check out this website. You can make your own bread. I laughed so hard when the team shared this with me. Here's a roll. It's shaped like tears and despair.
Wow.
It's actually made out of it's actually coconut. So it actually will taste delicious for those that like the taste of coconut. But yeah, go ahead and
Nice.
check out A Recipe Reborn. They make some really, really good stuff.
You guys want
Yeah,
some, right?
absolutely.
Also, remember that the Final Fantasy XIV
That's my
cookbook
friend,
comes
too.
out soon.
Which
Say
one?
that again.
The 14 cookbook comes out soon.
Oh yes.
Oh.
Oh, I'm excited for that.
I do find it very eerie, the whole, oh, this is just food, spooky food, and then you eat it and it takes over your mind and possibly even your body. It's real good horror material. I will say they did a good job of setting it up, because even just going blind into Shadowbringers, I was like, there's something wrong with this bread.
Yeah, why are they handing out food? They hate the poor. That was my feeling.
They don't hate the poor. They
I mean, they want
poor.
to keep them pliant. They need to keep them pliant and potentially a good renewable resource for working and stuff while they
Yes.
can get them.
They need to give the masses a sense of purpose, to give them pliant pieces for the game.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
The game has changed with
The Squid Game.
the Squid Game.
Oh
my
no.
gosh.
In case
I don't even
anybody-
know what that stuff is.
I say someday I'll get the references, maybe.
But yeah,
I do wonder if... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I do wonder if they designed it to look like that, as in like just to look like a hot cross bun, but with only one cross, or if they were going for something kind of like person-y looking, like a very pale person. But
Or maybe even something suggestive of like a sin eater cocoon, almost.
oh, I hadn't thought about that. That's good. I hope
I
it's
mean, that's
that.
kind of what it is. It might as well be.
It is, yeah.
So, question: do you think the Aura singer from Yulmore, she was ascended, but do you think she got to be a senator, or do you think they just turned her into meal?
I think they turned her into bread.
I agree.
Yeah, I think they turned her into bread.
They did reveal that meal is made from sin eaters, right?
So she
Yes.
Right.
became a sin eater
So
first,
they,
and
they,
then
they turned her
bread.
into a sin eater. Thanks for being in heaven. Then just bread her.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait.
Oh, thank goodness Bonnie isn't here.
At least
We're all
it couldn't
thinking it.
taste-
Don't worry.
it couldn't taste any worse than the Charlean loaf.
Well, they said it actually
I
tasted
bet it
really
tastes
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, honest-
Archon
just
Love
re-
tastes like butt.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just remembered that I wanted to mention this, that I feel like meal is a twisted reference to manna from the biblical thing, where it's like bread from heaven that just comes and it just arrives every morning. And this is when the
Mhm.
Israelites were doing their
Wandering
40
the
years of
desert.
wander.
Yeah.
Yep, so they couldn't exactly get food, so just here you go, food from heaven, manna. What is it? Meal.
It's a jam-filled
sin-eaters.
donut.
Haven't you
feel like
always
it's
wanted to be an
intended-
angel?
I feel like it's intended to be a reference to that, but like twisted and messed up.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, Shadowbringers is chock full of Christian imagery as it
Oh,
is,
yeah.
so it's not much of a
It's
stretch,
great.
It's a cake donut.
especially considering who it's coming from.
So I'd like to address a question in the chat. We've talked about it before, but it's always good fodder for discussion. There is some mystery as to the final boss of Mount Gulg and the songstress. And Roxas says he keeps receiving different answers. Do we want to go into this? The timeline issues?
Yeah, we got a little time, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yes. So for me, the timeline does not add up for that.
Also, her attacks. Do we want to speak about those?
Yes, go ahead.
All of the attacks are song themed. However, the primary issue is that we kind of see her. We see the consort of Sin fully ascended in Vothri's chambers with the lion Sin Eater. Pretty soon after, they're discussing her getting ascended.
Yes, I have a few theories on the matter. Actually, for one, I'll point out that the Yulmoran citizens are always trying to get bonded of various types, and if they had one singer, well, they had another singer, and they probably had 50 other singers. So,
right.
And what's more, I will also say, like, we see these similarities between the Void Scent and the Sin Eaters. There's the gargoyle-like ones, there's the eyeball-like ones, so on and so forth. So it's not impossible that two people who are both very into music might have souls similar enough that they transform into similar-looking creatures. Just a guess there, but for me, the timeline doesn't add up, but there are plenty of other reasons that it could be still non-directly connected.
I imagine that this is definitely a songstress, just not the same individual.
Yeah,
I have to agree.
that's also what I would think.
Stream Bonker brings up a good point as well. In regards to Sin Eaters, they also get stronger as they get older and eat other people, so she's too powerful to be a brand new baby Sin Eater. I agree.
Agreed.
And in fact, during that fight, you see other lesser eaters that probably aren't just clones of the boss that appear in the arena. So that type it's more than just one individual.
You know,
They're all named Forgiven too.
I really like the theory that it's Vothri's mom.
I had wondered that as well. It seems sort of fitting in a weird, twisted way. We certainly don't know where his mother and father are, and I think that's very suspicious.
Well, sure,
Maybe the lion is
the
his
lion
dad.
on the song, yeah.
I'd buy it. It's very fitting if so.
The lion has a crown.
Oh,
Yep.
I like that.
And
like
then,
theory.
like, I mean, his mom was already exposed to Sin Eater just by virtue of having Vothri.
Right.
Yeah.
Turned,
Yes.
So in other words, see, this is actually changing my mind a little bit, because my main criticism of this hypothesis has been the consort of Sin moniker. I didn't think that someone even as twisted as Vothri would make his mom his consort. But if the consort of Sin is merely a reference to the sin being implanted in her.
See, I'm sorry. Do you want to finish?
No, you please take it.
I was going to
you
say
see where I'm going.
Yeah, I see where you're going. I see the consort of Sin as his father was the one who said, yes, do this messed up thing, Mr. Asian dude.
Kill my wife.
And
thanks.
so she was his consort, wife, whatever, you know. So she ended up being the consort of Sin.
Got it.
I could see, I could really see the whole, like, you're raising and giving birth to a light warden thing messing you up in the long term, even though she did give birth successfully, we saw. But I have to guess, my instincts tell me that Vothri's father was eventually in the way of him being the actual righteousness. You're the one God sort of thing. Because Vothri's dad's plan was, your son will be this powerful thing and everyone will obey you. And I'm like,
also,
well, until they start obeying him.
Here, keep in mind also that in the scene where we defeat Vothri after that, when we start changing, Emmett Selk says those closest to you will also turn into light wardens. So it's every bit conceivable that by being around Vothri so much, his parents would have also turned into Sin Eaters.
I think you're right. I'd forgotten about that line. That is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, he didn't even need to do anything consciously. He could have just been
Just by being there. Yep.
Yep.
There's something else that's itching at my brain. I wanted to address it before we proceed, but I can't. Give me a moment.
I've got another one for you too after this, because I know we don't have a slide on it, but there's another. It's another cool story, one that people may not have realized first going through the dungeon.
So here it is. It finally came back to me. So the only other hiccup in this hypo is that Vothri, obviously he's like Lord of all Sin Eaters, right? So it's not really too much of a problem, but the sort of command relationship he has with the Consort of Sin is kind of odd. I guess he would have to place no value on it being his mother for him to use the kinds of words he does when he blesses her and makes her like twice as strong to become a boss. Do you remember this when the encounter begins?
I remember him amping her up.
He
amps her up. Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't care what it takes. That kind of thing.
He's got the not care about people thing going on.
Yeah, he's
Right.
got the I'm a god and beyond you.
Whatever the people were before they became Sin Eaters, they're tools now to him.
Yeah, not too big of a problem then.
Yes, exactly. It's almost like he's a petulant child who believes that he is chosen to lead everybody, including his parents.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I wonder what person became that giant Rubik's Cube that's the second boss of Knuckles.
Who has a Rubik's Cube kind of personality? Whose inner nature is a Rubik's Cube?
Maybe the person who originally did what Rendon later does with the Chais as an advisor.
Speaking of, how about that weird-ass Sin Eater in the Amarang dungeon?
Storgy, yeah.
Storg.
Yeah,
Storge,
the Light Warden.
Which I pronounced Storge for a very long time before I learned the correct Greek pronunciation is
the closest we got to a biblically accurate angel.
Fact.
It was pretty
Fact.
darn close. It's cool. I looked at that. I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy." I believe it was
Be afraid.
I believe Storgy was a fae. Correct? Remind me. Or no, it was
I don't
it was
have
a
that
fae
on.
that absorbed the memories of the queen of the titular Melika of the Melika as well.
I don't have that on recall.
Pretty sure.
It represents familial love in Greek. Just like how all the other Sin Eaters have a different kind of like love that they represent.
Incidentally, it's a minor pet peeve of mine that people like to come up with like the Sin Eater or Light Warden version of their Warrior of Light, which is cool, and then name it after plain old Sin Eater names instead of after the Greek names of love, which the Light Wardens are named after. Not that it matters, it's just every time I see it, I'm like, I stand by the Warrior of Light being agape.
So, shall I go into this next one?
Yeah, I'll pop to the final slide if you want to talk.
Well, it isn't in the slides.
No.
And so we can pause here for right now.
Okay.
Who remembers Dusk Vigil?
I do.
I do.
Hello, I do.
Oh yes,
Who read the notes?
I did.
Oh yeah.
I did, but it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Gonna be time
very
for
sad.
cannibalism.
So I'll go through these one by one.
Oh yeah,
First-
Dusk Vigil was a good one.
It was.
Oh boy.
The first note reads, "To whoever reads this, if there's anyone left to read it, let it be known that I, Sir Pascalrat Nurital, bore witness to Dalamud's fall. The lesser moon's descent, the black doom which emerged from within, the flames which spread across the horizon, turning night to day, it shall haunt me for the rest of my days. It is the dawn of the 7th umbral era, according to some of my men. I told them to put no stock into the ravings of the prophetess, but even I do not know what to believe anymore." The second torn journal page. "The engineers are still surveying the damage, but anyone with eyes can tell that the Dusk Vigil is beyond repair. Some walls hardly fit to be called as such, piles of crumbling masonry as they are. The officers have been pleading with Sir Uelmeric, asking him to order a withdrawal. He knows our position is untenable, yet he refuses. We will hold it to the last, for we are the shields on the wall, the defenders of the Holy See," he says. "He's a brave, pious man, less so we who serve under him." The third. "The men we rescued from the collapsed wing have not fared well, given our dwindling supplies and this seemingly endless blizzard," which, by the way, Kurthus was not always under a blizzard and not covered in snow. It was actually quite green and was more like a mountainside region than an actual like snow-swept mountain.
It was more alpine than anything.
Yeah, the calamity turned it into an endless winter. This unseasonable weather grows worse with every passing day, and the toll it has taken on morale is plain. We have yet to receive reinforcements from the Holy See, and I fear none shall come. Nevertheless, Sir Yulmeric remained steadfast in his decision, and I will not suffer any talk of withdrawal. Sir Yulmeric's steward says that he passes hours in the chapel praying to the Fury for guidance. But I chanced to see him once as he knelt before the statue. His eyes were transfixed upon the jewel in her crown, and he was whispering things I dare not write. The 4th, torn journal page. Sir Yulmeric has taken me into his confidence. He says I am an honest man. I wish I were a braver one. The mutiny has been quelled. Among the starving, half-mad knights were Sir Yulmeric's most trusted officers. He wielded the axe himself. Sir Yulmeric received me in the chapel afterwards. I told him we would not last a fortnight without food. He smiled and told me that the Fury has blessed us with a bounty of fresh meat, then returned to his prayers. I joined him. The 5th and final. O Helone, pray forgive your humble servant. For too long I have let my fear rule my heart, and my cowardice have I been party to unspeakable acts. I know now I shall never see my children again, nor would I want them to look upon their father's face. And what it has become, I am outside her grace. They have cannibals in there.
Yeah. The void scent?
Void scent equivalent of meal.
Basically, eventually their SWAT supplies dwindle down to almost nothing. If you look at their quarters, they're practically bare. There's nothing in there. And the soldiers degenerate into some kind of like undead, almost zombie-like. Some even losing their legs and some losing their bodies, with their souls slowly fading away. Yomeric is still there, still refusing to give up his fortress, and even seeing adventurers as intruders.
Something obviously twisted and warped his mind. The jewel, you said. That's odd. Oh, you're very quiet. Uh-huh.
The 51 dungeon is undead.
Yep.
71 dungeon is...
The 71, yeah.
It's a quieter.
Yeah.
It's a quieter kind of horror, but as soon as you start reading the logs, it's like, oh god, something very bad happened here. You get
it sets a tone.
The bad stuff, in the quest line as well.
They're very keen to set a tone. It is, but you really are motivated to do it because it has that aether current attached to the quest for it.
Does anyone remember the Alchemist 60 to 70 quest line?
I just did that recently on Lucienne.
That's a good one.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah. Definitely. The bodies that don't fade away.
To sum it up, it basically, a body had failed to decay after death, and it gives an uneasy feeling to anyone looking at them. Turns out that they would have become undead were it not for the weapon used being half of its historical capacity.
Heartstrike.
That'll be familiar to 1.0 players, which I was not, but I read up on this because it was actually tangential.
A weapon used on Neil Fresnay. What's his name? He had like a full name. But he was a really famous goldsmith in Ul'dah, and also a lover to a certain individual we may all know, Phil Hallman. Philia's adopted mom. She kept his body in Eralig's burial chamber, where it was sitting for years and years after the calamity, just not decaying because of what had happened to it because of Heartstrike.
Do you remember the in-room nightmare scenes in 1.0?
I
Bonnie
remember
does.
watching a video of those, and I was like, why don't we still have those? This would be really cool.
Man.
So, did FOW? No, you never had them. Okay. So,
Aw.
so what had happened was, as they approached the bringing down dalamud in 1.0, I think it was patch 1. I can't remember the patch. It was really, really close to the end of the patches, but players that logged out in an inn sometimes were greeted with a sort of cutscene that played where you were kind of striding along the land, and there was just this kind of like purple hue, and you were walking along, and there was the city state leaders dead, and a couple of other people that you knew along your travels dead at your feet. They would slowly, one by one, disappear, and you would fall to your knees, and then right behind you, Nail Van Darnus would show up, holding his halberd up against your back, and then stab, and you fall out of bed, waking up.
That's fun.
1.2, yeah, I think that was it. I wish they'd bring back some of those.
Yeah, definitely.
Honestly, I was kind of hoping they would do something like that coming up on
There's
Endwalker.
so many characters they could use to like screw with us in that context. Like just all of the ones from Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, Endwalker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Krista Genesis was just saying we kind of spiritually got that in Shadowbringers. It's kind of true. I had the same thought. But it's not quite the same, right, in terms of set piece and immersion and mystery. We just got little council dialogues when we go to our inn.
Also, Sestasha, the one everyone hates, the one everyone disregards. Anyone really paid attention to the small talk and side areas in that dungeon?
We can't fail again. Lord Leviathan will punish us. Especially if Sestasha Hard has a lot of like, ooh.
Not quite. So Sestasha is the very first dungeon of the game. It's the headquarters of a sex trafficking and sex slavery operation.
Mm-hmm.
The women dressed in the Riviera dresses are prisoners, and their pop-up flavor text tells you about what they're subjected to. When you enter the captain's
little's left in me virtue.
Yep, when you enter the captain's quarters, one of the Makot women says, "I'm not one of them. I swear on what little remains of my virtue."
Yeah, please rescue me.
If you go to the cell that's off to one side, yeah, they definitely have that like I've been traumatized by this experience look to them.
The pirate mobs can even be seen attacking what I think is the only female crew member in one of the optional rooms.
Interesting.
There's a lot of messed up stuff in Eorze, but you have to really have your one eye open for this.
Have your ear to the ground, yeah. And of course, like I was starting to say, the hard mode version gets on with the body horror side of things, where all the pirates who failed got over-aspected by Leviathan and turned into squid creature thingies.
Squid Game.
Everyone mentions it, and I still don't know what it's about.
I also don't know what it's about.
It's just the latest fad.
Yep. Not
Is that like Tiger King?
5 quid?
5 quid.
We've gone over Sophia and everything. Just trying to think what else. I know I've said we've gone over Sophia and everything, but we haven't gone over it here, but we've covered it in previous episodes.
Tonberries? Question mark.
Tonberries, yeah.
Wanderer's Palace.
You've been gone. You want to say there's something?
Oh, yeah, I've been listening.
The best kind of berries.
Go ahead. Or do you want me to?
Refresh me.
Okay.
I just blanked.
So the civilization of Nim, a civilization of scholars and traders, back in the sixth umbral era, sixth astral era,
Oh, right. I wanted to talk about the hole.
When Mach went on the offensive, they released a void synth known as Batoso, who was all but invisible and was used to spread a plague among the Nemeans. Nim being mostly comprised of Lalafels, was especially susceptible to this plague. And
So what you're saying is they had it coming.
Sure, why not? And it turned them into the green little nightmarish creatures you know today in the Wanderer's Palace, known as Tonberries.
AKA
So they
cancer
can't-
gnomes.
So they cured the Lalafels and made them look like they're supposed to.
Yes.
I
Yes, that's
suppose.
right, Cobron.
Now they are ever vengeful, and for good reason, of course, but they take it out on the wrong people.
Gosh, that
But-
sounds almost realistic.
But they don't know if we're Mach or not. They don't know that Mach is dead and long gone.
True. The
I mean-
king's rank, or the king of their civilization, I guess, was affecting all of them as we learn more. We learn quite a bit more, actually, in the Scholar Quests.
Yeah, I was
Yep.
going to say, Sylpharia had said, I really hope we get more Nim, Amdapor, and Mach stuff in the news story. I'm always in favor of more, but there's quite a lot between the Void Ark series, the Scholar Quest line where we cure the Tonberries, and the Wanderer's Palace sequence where we save them and they're not all bad. There's quite a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about the 3, I want to know more about the others, though.
About Amdapor and Mach.
No, so we know about Amdapor, Mahak, and Nim, but the other civilizations that were around, because there were 13 of them during that era.
I was gonna say I can do an entire
mean-
episode of that about the War of the Magi, but I'm saving that for another video.
Yes, get that script done.
Please look forward to
Yes.
it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Please
So,
look
dude,
forward
what's
to it.
another of the body horror ones, though? Didn't they all get turned into zombies?
I believe so.
That's what happened to Silda as well, actually. Ulda's sister city, they got
It's
turned into
yeah,
rubble.
Sildi.
Yes.
What was our final slide?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was daydreaming about Tonberries.
How?
You would.
Huh?
What?
Yeah, Gilmora's
Yeah,
Yeah,
come back to
Gelmora.
us.
Yeah, we get a lot of Gelmora in the deep Palace of the Dead.
Yes.
Yeah, we actually went over that the previous episode.
I need to get back in there solo. I said that last week, but I need to make some time. I'm going for another 200 run.
So I do want to interject here, just some horror stuff having to do with the Void. We put it in our video for the Third Astral Era, but at the end of the Third Astral Era in the invasion of Mericidia, Zande made a pact with the Void to allow them to reanimate the bodies of dead Mericidians as long as they fought for him in Mericidia. And so basically Mericidia is just full of Void sent occupying bodies down there. So I'm really curious to go down there. I think when we finally confront the Void, it's going to be in Mericidia.
That would be very interesting.
Honestly, I
With,
think that's where 7.0 is heading, honestly.
Yeah, where with what's her name? With Tiamat free now, it's definitely within the possibility that she'd be like, yeah, these void sent corpses are a real headache. You want to come help me with that?
So, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It's a lot of body snatching in this game, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got your Void Scent.
You got your
You got your
Asian
Asians.
Paragons.
Exactly. And you got, gosh, what else is there? I feel like there's more than just those two examples.
Who wants to go over this
Well,
one?
I'm gonna say there's co-rab. I'll go with this one.
Yay.
Obviously, there's the Asians, which are the OG body snatchers. Most often they use dead bodies. Obviously, the lesser Asians have to, but in some cases, looks at La Habrea, they can and do use the living. As far as we know for a fact, 100% guaranteed, Thancred's the only living person they were in, but since La Habrea has worn himself out, we can infer that he's done a lot of it.
That and those that are possessed usually don't have any kind of awareness or memory of what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, as Thancred tells us, I believe it's in the Shadowbringers post patches, he mentions, yeah, it was kind of just like being asleep.
Yeah, just literally possessed, and that's it.
There's a few other instances of more unusual possession in a couple quests. Obviously, the Crystal Tower quest line, once you finish that, you can go, you get a quest that sends you to visit Ko Rabinta and find out, well, as the person
Right.
says, you seek Ko Rabinta? Well, you found the right body, but she is not at home, so to speak. So Ko found some kind of they described it as an orb that held the Archimagus of Alig, Noah's soul, the one that Noah is named after, amusingly enough. And Noah was like, "Don't mind if I do." So now there's some implication that there's a timeshare, but we only ever see Noah there. And
Yeah,
weekly
And he's
retrieval
been there
quest.
for years now.
yeah, that
been.
kind of horrified me when that happened.
Like,
I
what?
found
You didn't even giving her body
disturbing
back
that
to
we're
her,
like,
right?
oh, you'll do this every week for.
It's just your weekly quest.
I'm gonna walk away now.
Don't think about it. Just give her the memories.
Pretty much. Try not to think about it. Give me my ether oil. And then, of course, there's the example of the Black Mage class quests where Shatoto's.
Shantoto, yeah.
In this game, it was Shatoto.
Shatoto,
They dropped
right.
the N for whatever reason. I don't. Does anyone actually know why they spell it some ways one way sometimes and one way the other time?
Because
They
she's
had-
so iconic in 11 that I don't
Exactly.
Think, yeah.
Okay, so that's
They-
sort of
they
a
also
throwback
had-
to 11.
They did have, like, I think, an instance of her actually, like, Shantoto from 11
Properly, yeah.
being in this game properly as, like, a
I think it was
crossover
like
thing.
I think it was a more of a matter of like retconning. They wanted to avoid that.
Right.
Gotcha.
So they had Chateau.
Yeah,
Right. You're
it was
correct.
a Fate back in the day, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was a
thing?
crossover event,
probably-
Fate, and I showed a picture a few weeks ago, but essentially, Shantoto in all of her Taru glory is like 30 feet tall, and all the adventurers are
Yeah.
dead on the ground. That's
Yep.
the picture.
Amazing. Yeah, I
Shatoto
think
in this
that's where I
game.
remember it from.
Shatoto in this game, by contrast, possesses Lolai throughout the whole 60 to 70 Black Mage quests.
Yeah, basically we find out that it's just sort of it's not like actually the original. It is the original Shatoto, but it's also not in that. It's just like
Yeah.
I left a copy of my program to run when this comet would
Yeah,
come back around.
yeah.
Which, boy, that sounds kind of ominous now that we know about the Starfall thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it was much less intrusive than most of the other body snatching things. Lala is basically honored to be her vessel and to help and to save the world like this. And they do a cute little thing where you can see the eye color change.
They
to
share
see
screen
who's in
time.
charge too. Mm-hmm.
It's glorious.
They share very nicely, and once Shatoto has seen that this comet passes by, she disappears again.
Unlike Ko Rabnata.
Who's still here?
Who is stuck
6
in
years
purgatory
later.
forever. It'd be nice to see her at just an event, like a holiday event. She can walk in and be herself for like 30 seconds. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, Streamwalker brings up a good point. You want some real scary stuff? Imagine flying through space for thousands of years by yourself and you can't get home.
Then a tiny chicken and its friends kill you.
Omega
Poor
lol?
Omega.
The whole like, this is your duty, see it through, and then haha, just kidding, you can't. That feels bad. That feels real.
By the way,
Gosh.
your target is literally right there in front of you, and you can't do anything about it.
Rip.
That is an interesting hypo. I was reading that the other day.
So, I had something to say about Shatoto, but I forgot.
Well, I will stall.
Oh my god.
Among the Asians, there's obviously, this would be a huge retcon, and because 1.0 and 2.0 are vastly different games, and they made a huge story arc trying to link them to, but I've mentioned it before, Travanchet, the Asian in 1.0, makes an appearance during the Heavensward Alexander quest series. And my hypothesis is that since La Habrea has such an interest in hopping bodies, and an interest in summoning primals, that perhaps he was in that body.
I can certainly see it.
Yeah,
Obvious
still-
retcon,
Alexander's a
but it's a thought.
Alexander's a big deal primal. He's not like a
Right.
little one and done. He's a whole raid series. So like I
Yeah,
could really see that.
absolutely. I still have hope that Travanche was probably some other Ascian, one of the other Ascians, and that we'll get to see him again at some point and learn who he is.
We can
but
hope,
like
yeah.
that, it's certainly a possibility that it was one of La Habrea's personas. If it wasn't La Habrea, he was most likely operating in La Habrea's direction.
Fair, yeah. Roxas, yes, it does. Final Omega is just all the final fights have a second phase in Savage, and I would highly recommend checking out any of the YouTube videos of the clear, because the dialogue for Final Omega is really interesting, though not topical today.
I especially remember the XIV second phase from Savage and how he rips a hole in the wall.
The transition,
just-
that one's good.
He just
yeah.
rips a hole in the wall. It's like a literal fourth wall break.
It's like Danny DeVito coming out of the black couch.
Oh wow, that's true. And funny.
Can I offer you a void portal in this trying time?
So I guess just a little bit more stalling for Ayumi here. The Nier series in Shadowbringers, we see the rift between worlds being broken, and behind it, just like in Neo X-Death, is blank perfection.
Oof.
Oh, you don't have to
That's-
solve
that's
it.
And
the
there's
rift.
plenty of horror elements under the surface of Nier as a series
Yeah.
that leak into this game too, like the flowers.
Indeed.
Oh, I would
Oh,
go
not
into
to
that.
mention- Not to mention the Katamari of two Ps.
Yes.
The room full of dead 2Bs as well.
Oh yeah, there's lots there. But we are at
Yeah.
time, so if you have lost your thread, I am happy to close out.
Yes, I've lost my thread.
No problem. We love Nier. We did a whole show on that a number of weeks ago. Please feel free to check it out. Obviously, Nier is a horrific universe. But yeah, thank you guys for coming out to our episode on Horrors of the Realm. Please bring your friends next week. Check out our Discord and follow us on Twitter at lorelinesxiv. FFXIV. I always do that. Any closing remarks, team?
Thank you all.
Next
Yeah.
week. Yeah, what are we doing next week? You forgot to mention.
Yeah,
Ah.
we should mention that, and also potentially our new time coming up.
Please, you
Oh,
have the
yes.
floor.
So we're actually going to be our new time frame. We're actually going to be starting up an hour earlier than normal. So instead of 3 o'clock, it'll be 2 o'clock Central Time. So for those that are used to it, you just have to tune in an hour earlier. That's all.
What is Central Time?
Central Time is the standard normal time that
No,
us normies have.
That time no one uses.
I use it every day. What are you talking about?
3 o'clock Eastern time for us people who use the proper time.
That live on the Hurricane Coast.
So I want to say thank you all for joining us today, and have a spooky evening.
We'll see you guys next week, because we're
Also-
going to be covering the live letter from
Yes.
the producer.
And we are expecting the launch trailer at the beginning of that, and we are going to be going over that with a fine-tooth comb.
Fingers crossed for CGM it.
Can't wait to see what we got. I can't complain because I got CG from Daniel, and I'm really happy about it.
See, there's
I liked having him around.
the thing with the launch trailer is it's not CG, it's all in game.
Tragic.
Well,
Yes,
anyway.
the launch trailer will
Well,
have
if you
potential
think back
spoilers.
to the Shadowbringers launch trailer, go look at that. That'll give you a good idea of what might be in the launch trailer.
Yes.
Just enough to whip us into a frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Another one of those eldest of primals moments, maybe. Wink, wink.
Yes. The greatest and
And
eldest
yet
of
they-
spoilers.
And yet that one was by no means the biggest reveal. So obviously they'll have plenty in reserve.
The thing is, a lot of people postulated that before that came out, and that was just basically a confirmation. It was.
Oh yeah.
It was bait. It was absolutely bait.
Well, everyone, have a happy Halloween. If you celebrate, enjoy the fun, and we'll see you next week.
Don't eat
Happy
too much
Halloween,
candy.
everyone. Yes.
Brush
Make
your
sure
teeth
to
afterwards.
check your candy for Frey.
For Frey.
I don't know. I heard that they're putting the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy
And we're done.
15 with have a good
Just
one.
USB
Watch your candy.
sticks with the install client.
All right. See you all next week.
Yeah, take care,
Cinnamon
everybody.
Fright Crunch.